strength to do all the good that he's doing. And for the family, is that the Shem? Only strength for the family. To give an introduction of Emet in general and this workshop in particular. So many of you know Emet has been around already for 18 years. And some here have been connected to Emet for 15 to 18 plus years. And at Emet we have one goal. One mission is to connect as many people as we can and to build long-term relationships, real relationships. And we connect with them on campus. We start with them on campus. And we connect with them until they get married, and until now, when they're already married with kids of their own. And it's really 4 divisions. There is the campus division, which is where we meet them, and everybody comes in different levels, mostly students who have no yeshiva Jewish background. And we connect with them, we grow with them, and we invite them over for Shabbat. We have trips. Just girls coming back. They came back yesterday. 20 plus girls went to Miami. Tomorrow we have 18 plus boys going to Arizona. We have here some who have been to Arizona with Emet, single, and now they're married. And what we do is we just connect. And we have 20 plus staff that's their job, to connect to these students and to connect and to build long-term relationships. And it's an honor to work with the Emet staff and to work with them, everybody at Emet. Because everybody at Emet, this is their goal. What can we do for the community? What can we do for our children and for the young professionals and the young couples? So we start off with campus, and then we go to the higher level boys and higher level girls programming. After that, we have Emet Match. Emet Match is something we're putting together, and we're still working on it to perfect it, is to officially make connections. Connections happen always at Emet, but to officially make connections and to build more Jewish families. And thank God it's taking off. And then we have our couples division. Thank God we have 500 plus couples. I'm sure even more. Sarah will correct me. I'm sure we have... How much? 800. I go low. We have 800 plus couples in our system. We have 1 to 2 weddings a week. That Rabbi Rudenberg, Rabbi Kraft, Rabbi Kigel, myself, Sarah, and is in every wedding. And it's an unbelievable. Rabbi Rudenberg already doesn't eat Ashkenazi food already for a long time. Rabbi Rudenberg has told me he cannot be in an Ashkenazi wedding. After that, he goes to one of our students' weddings to eat. So it's an unbelievable thing that we can dance at 1 and 2 weddings a week. And we're involved. And it's very, very special. If you look at the world of Kiruv, if you look at the world all throughout America, Kiruv is not like this in our community. Because they're usually in college, and then they lose them. They go away. So here, our community, still, we have the opportunity to do Kiruv on a mass level. And when one person gets connected, he affects his whole family. And that family gets affected, and their change of history is changed forever. So it's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful thing to be part of such an organization. And we thank Shai for taking the lead of the couples division. And the couples division is skyrocketing, thank God. We have once a month this type of a workshop. We have different events. Please come. Please give the email. You're going to go get the email from Shai and from Emet. Anybody who wants to partner in any which way, there's many sponsorships and many opportunities to connect and to be a partner. If there's any way that you would like to be a partner at any different level, it could be a monthly level, it can be a one-time level, it can be a sponsorship of a class, of a workshop, of a Shabbaton. Rabbi Kigel, who's one of our main senior rabbis, he has, I would say, Sarah will correct me, out of 52 Shabbats of the year, he has close to around 35, 40 Shabbatons. And in his home, we have here Zahava, who does all the attendance of all of everything. Thank you very much, Zahava, for working night and day. We thank you for all your attention to detail. And we have in his home alone around 30 to 40 students to go to his home alone for Shabbat. This is how you build a relationship. When you have Shabbat at people's homes and you have connections. So any which way you would like to partner, we're open. You could always reach me at the Emet office. I have a very easy number also, 347-444-3339. Any which way you can come and partner with us to do even better, because we have a 5-year plan of growth. And we want to not connect to 400. We have 450 students we connect to weekly. We don't want to connect to 450 students. We want to connect to 1,200 students a week. And B'ezrat Hashem, we're going to be doing it because we have the best staff. Thank you. Shai will introduce Rabbi Reich. It's a pleasure to have Shai. And B'ezrat Hashem, Sarah, thank you. Zahava, thank you. And all of you, thank you so much for making time to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi, so much. Rabbi also didn't mention we also have Torah Connect. We have Torah Connect, 2 amazing programs which we have for our level 2. These are our students who are already ready for the next stage, and we invite them to come and learn Wednesday nights, one-on-one or in a small group, where a gentleman is able to learn with another rabbi or mentor, and we have another program for the ladies. They're starting this week, so if not for yourselves, because I know I'm sure a lot of you are learning. If you're not learning, you're welcome to join the program. If you know anybody that's interested to come to the program, you're welcome to come as well. So as Rabbi Moshe mentioned, I run the couples division here at Emet. I'm happy to say that we do programs like this on a monthly basis. Last month I think we had Rabbi Schaefer, the month before we had Rabbi Rudenberg, and sometimes it's about children and sometimes it's about marriage, and we always try to make something very interesting for couples, because couples are always saying, let's do something that's very exciting. We also do different things for our couples aside from lectures and workshops. We have Shabbatons, which a lot of you have attended. We have a cooking night where we have some couples who are able to go out and cook together in a kitchen studio in the 5 towns. They sit down, they cook together, they learn how to cook, they make a 3-course meal. That's something that we offer really to our newlyweds because it's a small studio. But we do those also every couple of months or so. And we're just happy to do more for the community, especially the couples who, unfortunately, we don't always go out as much as we want to. So we're coming up with this particular event. Rabbi Rudenberg, who everybody I think here knows, was supposed to give the opening remarks to introduce Rabbi Reich. Let's talk a little bit about communication. Rabbi Rudenberg got sick, and he asked me to take over. So I told him, Rabbi, you can ask my wife. I know nothing about communication. But he said, Shai, you can do it. So I didn't really prepare. He told me yesterday that he was sick, and there's a lot that's going on in Emet. But I decided just to prepare a little bit. I like to read a lot of self-help books. And I'm currently reading something like this. It's called Crucial Conversations. It's one of the best self-help books that I've ever read. I can send you a link to it. It's really an amazing book. I'm not getting, this is not a sponsored thing at all, but I enjoy this book so much. And I want to be able to touch a little bit about what communication means. You see, communication is vital to every relationship, as we all know. And many relationships are more successful, and some of them are not. But especially, it's mostly vital in a marriage. So they bring a story over here of a couple. The guy's name was Abe. The husband's name was Abe. The wife's name was Mary. And they were living, Baruch Hashem, with a great relationship. It's not a Jewish couple, I don't think. They had a great relationship until the recession hit, and he was a chef, she was some type of production manager, and during the recession he ended up losing his job, the restaurant closed, and she ended up working like a tremendous amount of extra hours because they had to downsize, and they gave her a little bit of a raise, but they cut the departments. She ended up working much more. So at first he said to her, don't worry, sweetheart, you work, I'm going to take off some time until I find myself another job. I'll take care of the household, I'll take care of the kids, I'll take care of the dishes, I'll take care of all the responsibilities. He clearly wasn't a client, but he said, don't worry, I'm going to do all of this. And she said, bye-bye. He sent her off to work. And it was working for quite some time. Until one day, they stopped seeing each other as often as they liked, because she was working crazy late hours, and she would come to the house, and he'd either be asleep, or they just, you don't have time for each other, which obviously makes a tremendous strain on the relationship. So one particular Friday evening, he's waiting for her to come home. He made dinner, she didn't come home. He's sitting on the couch, dinner's already cold, and he's watching TV, and he's upset that she came home late. Finally, she walks in, she looks at the house is a mess. The food is cold, he's not even coming to greet her. She says, whatever, why do I need this? And she walks into her room. And he goes, what? She goes into her room, and he's all very upset. And that's it, that's how the night ended. And they didn't really talk about this. So he's upset with her, she's upset with him. And within time they get over it. And whatever, the next day it continues on and on. But it really bothered him because, you know, he works very hard and she doesn't recognize that. So he says to her, you know, I'm going to mention it to her. So he waited for the right time. And we know when you have an argument, when you want to talk about something, timing is everything. So he waited for the right time. It was a day off, they were eating brunch. They sat down and all of a sudden he starts bringing up, hey babe, can I talk to you? Remember that Friday where you came home late and I was on the couch? Or she goes to him, oh yeah, that Friday where I came home, nothing was ready, and you were sitting on the couch and you didn't greet me? And he said, well, actually that Friday where I was waiting for you and I cooked and I waited for you to come home. And she said, no, you waited for me, you waited for me to do everything, and then it started back and forth. See, the chapter that this particular story is about making it safe. Because the point that they're bringing up was that when you want to be able to have the right conversation with your spouse or worker or your kids or anybody else, you have to make sure that they feel safe in arguments for them to be able to hear you. And they say there's two conditions to making something safe. There's you're making sure that you have mutual respect and have mutual purpose. So when you make the other person feel that you have mutual purpose, the whole conversation goes differently. So they go, you know, they give you more examples, and then they say that what Abe should have done, he should have opened up the conversation and said, hey, sweetheart, you know that I love you, right? She says, yeah, of course. You know that I want to build a very loving relationship with you. She goes, yeah, I see. You know, obviously he's talking on a mutual plane, mutual front. But sometimes it bothers me that you don't really listen to what I have to say. Sometimes I don't feel comfortable talking to you about what's really bothering me. Sometimes, and they keep saying, don't use the word always, you know, the word sometimes. Don't worry, Rabbi, I'm not going to take the speech. But we say sometimes because that's a little bit more safer. It makes the person at ease. And they were able to have a normal relationship because he was able to approach it from a place where he showed her mutual understanding and mutual care. I have the absolute pleasure of taking care of all my kids in the morning. My wife is a nurse, she wakes up really early. So in the mornings, it's my responsibility to run out to the kids, making sure that they brush their teeth, and they put on their clothes, and by 8:15 we have to be out of the car and I drive them all to school. And in the beginning I was struggling tremendously because either one of the shoes is missing, I don't know where my left shoe is, and you know, I forgot my snacks, I forgot my lunch, and then my wife calls me in the afternoon, you know, your shoe forgot his lunch. I'm like, sorry. So I realized, and my kids are not really in diapers. They're able to take care of themselves. But me running after the kids and making sure that I'm also preparing myself, you know, it was a bit challenging. So I realized that in order for me to be able to get the kids to do something that I want on a mutual plane of mine, I have to be able to talk to them on their level. So I created a competition. I went to Costco, I bought little mini Cokes. Yeah, we give our kids sugar sometimes. And I said to the kids, whoever gets dressed in the morning, has their shoes, their coats, their snacks, their lunch, everything, you brush your teeth, your coat is ready to go. By 8:15, you're standing to go into the car and buckling, you get a can of Coke. And the next day, they were all dressed, they all got a can of Coke. And the day after that, and the day after that, until recently, I stopped giving them the Coke. Because they're just excited. What are we going to get today? I said, nothing today, it's too much sugar. And they understand. But I created a habit. I created a very, very moving trade. So Baruch Hashem, it works. I get the Father of the Year award. Okay, right? You know, there's a playwright by the name of George Bernard Shaw. And he says that the biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it already happened. Because people think, well, they know what I mean to say. They know everything. So that's the illusion, that's the biggest problem in communication. So, one last example before I introduce Rabbi Reich. There was a very profitable company that the book mentioned that the employees were going on strike. And it ended up being months, 6 months of employees on strike. So the companies were taking a hit, the employees were taking a hit. It was terrible. To the point that they finally were able to decide to have a mutual contract, the employees were willing to sign to come back to work. But when they signed, they ended up saying to themselves, we're not happy here. The employees were miserable, they were really, really like bitter, they were getting into fights with their bosses, and the employees were afraid that this whole striking is going to come up again. So they called one of the authors of this book, and they invited them down, and the author decided to do something very interesting. He took the workers, he put them into a room, the representatives of the workers, and he took out one of these boards and started to write, okay, what are your goals? What are your goals? What do you want to do? What do you want for the organization? What do you want for yourself? and they started writing everything down, and they cleaned it up. And they did the same thing with the employees, with the employers. And the employers did the same exercise. And after 2 hours of being in the room with both of them, the author, he cleaned it up, and he realized that they were both wanting the same things. They all wanted a profitable company, a suitable place to work, a rewarding place to work, and also a good reputation in the community. They both wanted the same things. So when he put them into a room and he told them, you guys all want the same things, we just have to figure out how to get there, then he was successful. And for the first time in decades, he was able to bring mutual respect and mutual purpose to this organization that they didn't have in a decade. So I'm really not going to pretend that I know anything about communication. My wife is here, she'll tell you. But that's why we bring the professional here. Rabbi Reich, I happen to know Rabbi Reich from months in New York. He used to teach over there. That's where I first met him. I fell in love with Rabbi Reich. He's really, for those of you who have heard him speak in the past, those of you who attended our retreat, Rabbi Reich was at our retreat, his warmth and his energy really take our workshops and hopefully this one to the next level. So without further ado, please welcome Rabbi Naftali Reich.
Tonight actually was sponsored by the Yaakov family in the memory of Matan Ben Yisro. Kisio. Sorry, my part is actually really good. But may the learning tonight will turn the Shema. Amen. Amen. Uplift the Shema. Amen.
Amen. Hey guys, it's actually a real pleasure to be back here. I was at the Shabbaton a few weeks ago with my wife, and I can tell you that when I came out of that weekend, I said to my wife, I don't know, I think I was born in the wrong religion. Should have been born Sephardi. The food, the ruach, spirit, it was really amazing. Something else, really enjoyed it, and I'm super glad to be back. We're here to talk about communication. I don't know how many of you guys are in real estate. You want to put up your hand? Anybody who's in real estate? No one? Okay, okay. What are the most important things in real estate that determine the value of real estate? Location. Location. What do we say? Location, location, location! Right? That's what everybody says. Well, what's the most important things in marriage? Communication, communication, communication. Now, of course, we all know, well, in real estate, there are a lot of things that factor into its value. You got to know the zoning, you got to know the air rights, and you got to know the issues and title research and a lot of things. But location strikes at the heart of the value of real estate, right? A little piece of land in Manhattan, and you compare it down here in Queens, pretty expensive in Queens too. But let's say you go, take that little piece, that quarter of an acre, and you put it up somewhere in the Catskill Mountains in Pennsylvania, the Poconos, ain't worth too much. So location is important. Well, it's the same thing with communication. Communication, a lot of factors could go into marriage. A lot of qualities that are critically important to build a good marriage. We need to be able to be nurturing, we need to be able to be supportive, we need to be able to be vulnerable, we need to be able to not own other people's stuff, trust, and there's a whole host of things. But the heart of marriage, the essence of marriage is communication, communication, communication. Because if we can communicate, then we can forge the most important element of marriage, which is bonding, connecting, being soulmates. If we want to know what marriage is really all about, it's about being soulmates. It really is. You know, they say that marriage is when a man and a woman decide to become one. The troubles begin when they can't decide which one. That's the problem. But really what it is we know, we understand, our concept of marriage is not a mutually beneficial relationship that we partner together because we want to share our journey in life together. It's just so much more convenient, so much more enjoyable, so much more productive. We understand marriage is we were one soul. God has his divine, mystical, infinite mind. We don't understand, but we understand that when two people come together, we call it the Bershert. And we understand that we were really, our destinies are interwoven. We have a shared goal together. And somehow or other, our souls were enmeshed in the heavenly throne, somewhere in that heavenly constellation, we were one. Don't understand it exactly, but we understand that there's something much deeper to marriage. We come down and we float down to this world. We are invested in different bodies, different characteristics, different mindset. But we believe at the core of marriage is that we are really unified and one. We have a shared destiny. And that's why I'm going to explain that the very essence of marriage is that unity. Marriage is created in Torah law through words, through communication. Give a ring under the chuppah. That ring symbolizes that we are unified as one, and we say words. Harei at mekudeshes li. Behold, you are betrothed to me. Some people, not under the chuppah, but separately, a wife will give a husband a ring. I once saw a guy who was looking at his ring, his marriage ring, and he was twisting it and turning it and bending it, and I'm asking him, what are you doing? He said, I'm still trying to find a combination. He's still trying to figure that one out. But what does a ring symbolize? A ring symbolizes that we are essentially one. We're unified. We are one. And we create that unity through words. Now I want to just pause for a moment before we begin to understand, to analyze just a little bit the magic of communication, the magic of words. See, we humans are called, in mystical terms, we're called the medaber. We have four elements in creation. There's the inanimate world, there's the vegetative world, there's the animal world, and then there's the human world. And the human world is referred to by the sages as the one that speaks. Because what distinguishes us from an animals can communicate. They can warble to one another, they can make sounds to one another, they can send sonar signals. Whales across the undercurrents of the world can send sonar signals. But intelligent communication is unique to human beings, that we can actually, in a variety of languages, in poetry, in prose, in all different ways, we can communicate with incredible intellect and great depth. And we can actually probe, because the secret of a real relationship, the essence of a real relationship, is really, really in the mind. It's when I can actually probe, scope, and penetrate your mind, and you can penetrate my mind, and we can understand each other. And we can only do that. That's the essence, the heart of a real relationship. Everything that we do together and have fun together is only as meaningful as we actually have mind connection, and we understand one another, and appreciate one another, and verbalize respect to one another, and affirmation and love. And we can only do that through words. Now let's analyze for a moment how God created us with his infinite wisdom, with the capacity to speak. Speech, me sharing words with you, what allows me to speak? How am I facilitating language that you are understanding, and we are sharing a common mind, and we're going back and forth? You're listening, I'm speaking, and we're sharing a connection. How is that connection happening? What's happening when I speak?
You have our attention.
What's that?
You have our attention.
I have your attention, true. There's eye contact. That's
Give
true.
me over what's in
I will-
my mind to your mind.
My mind to your mind. They say, psychologists tell us, that in communication, about 8-9% of communication is the words they use. About 25 to 30% is based on my action, yeah, my hand movements, my nuance, my facial expression, my emphasis, my eye contact. There's a whole host of things that create communication. Words are only a medium that I'm sharing the message with you, but the message only penetrates. You're only able to absorb my message with a whole host of other things that support communication. But you know what the most important thing of communication really is? Soul connection. The desire to listen, to hear, and to want to be one. Because if I'm shouting at you and you don't want to hear, my words are bouncing off the top of your mind. You're not interested in listening. And most people are communicating oftentimes on different wavelengths. And they may be shouting at each other. They may be trying to get the other one to listen to what they have to say. That's not communication. It's missing in the core, the essence of communication. Now, if we want to examine communication, communication is, the Torah tells us that when God created man, He made him, Vayihi ha'adam lenefesh chaya, man became a living creature. And the sages tell us, what does it mean man became a living creature? He became l'ruach mamalala. Don't worry, it's coming back. It's good. What does it mean? It means that he became a person that can speak. A ruach mamala. How did God create the world? The power of speech. 10 Ma'amoros. God created the world. Let there be light. Let there be a firmament. Let the seas collect. Because words, think about it for a moment. Words, I can say something that is very beautiful and very deep. Words are finite. Words are taking infinite and putting it down into a box so that it can be understood on a very distilled, simple level. If you look at speech, what's the essence of speech? How do I make speech? Speech is made from breath. Breath. Breath is the essence of speech. If I don't breathe, I can't speak. And how do I then formulate with breath words? There are 5 parts of the mouth that create words. There's the gut roll, there's the throat, there's the top of the throat, there's the teeth, there's the tongue, and there's the lips. There are certain letters that are created through the lips. Beis, Vav, Mem, Pei. Certain letters are from the back of the throat. Ches. Certain are made by the tongue. Tes. And certain are made by the teeth. You have letters that are formulated, crafted, machined, tooled by the mouth, by the body, and they're formulated with the breath. So every time I speak, I am actually bringing together my breath. What's the word for breath in Hebrew? Neshima. What's the word for soul in Hebrew? Neshama, same word. The breath of life is the soul, is the essence of who I am. I'm taking my soul, I'm taking my very essence. That's why words are so powerful. I'm taking my soul and I'm morphing it, merging it with my body, creating a marriage between my body and my soul and crafting words. And that's why when man was created, God created man, and it says, Vayhi ha'adam lenefesh chaya, man became a living creature. He was created b'tselem Elokim. He's a builder. He's a creator. He can fuse body and soul. He can take the very infinite dimension of his breath of life and communicate and connect that breath to another person's breath, to another person's soul through the medium of words. We're able to connect. We limit. It's like you have the generator that makes electricity that you know it's just thousands of megawatts. You can't do anything with all that power, so it has to be distilled and distilled into substations and then transferred on wires, and then it's plugged in, and then you have light! And it's wonderful! We can harness it. So we're taking the infinite dimension inside of us and distilling it, channeling it down, and bringing it into words, and thereby communicating and connecting soul to soul. How do we connect? Only through speech. Speech affords us a possibility and an opportunity to connect in a very deep way. So when God created this world and he wanted to create his infinite power and distill it into something finite, limited, that we can relate and connect to, he used words, letters, 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. And so everything he created, every matter he created, we say in English, abracadabra. What does that mean, abracadabra? He created as he spoke. He took letters, each letter reflects a certain finite dimension, and he put them through various permutations and thereby created that he invested the source, the essence of everything in this world is animated with breath, with God, with godliness, with goodliness. That's the source, at the source of every atom, pulsating with his life, with his energy. And when I'm speaking, at the very source of my speech is my soul, connecting to you. And you're speaking to me, you're connecting to me. There's a power through speech to connect on the deepest level. Because it's so powerful, words are very, very, very important. We've got to make sure that the words are true. Words can create, words can destroy, because it's always the opposite. But if you take all the letters in the Hebrew alphabet, there's one letter in the Hebrew alphabet that doesn't require the body to give it expression at all. Anybody know that letter? Aleph? No, you need the tongue. Allah. You need the tongue and the mouth and the lips. Hey. 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 Hey is pure breath. Hey is just the breath. Hey is the most spiritual of all the letters. In fact, if you look in the Torah, at the beginning of the second chapter of Bereshit, it says in the Torah, these are the creations of heaven and earth, Vehi baram, and the hay of, and these are the creations of heaven and earth. As God created it, you have the hay a little small, because it really means as with a hay. The sages tell us with a hay God created the world, because he invested his breath into the essence of creation. Hey, the breath is the essence of creation. It's the essence of communication. I'm hearing, you know, if I want to hear my wife, if I want to hear someone at the very deepest level, see, when they say words, words are just giving over an idea, a dimension of their feeling or reality. But if I want to hear someone at the very core, I'm hearing their very nefesh, I'm hearing their very breath, I'm hearing their very essence, I'm hearing their very life, I'm connecting to the very life of the person. When we want to connect to someone else in the deepest way, universal expression of love, what is it? Huh? Hug. Well, yeah, but more than that. Not always. Some cultures don't alike it, don't associate with the hug. What is it? A kiss. A kiss. What's a kiss? Such a strange... If you were coming as an alien from Mars and you were looking at people kissing, you would think they were like, what kind of craziness is that? But what is it? It's... The word kiss in Hebrew, nashika, means to pour. I'm pouring you my breath. I can't put it in words. I can't crunch it in words. I can't limit it in something finite with my body. It transcends the physical finite. It's my very essence pouring over to you. It can't be expressed in words. That is the breath of life. That's the very essence of life. That's the most important part of life. So when we're communicating, the most important thing is that I want to connect. I desire to connect. I'm not simply giving you my opinion. to know what I want, and I think that you should be doing this. What happens when we express our needs assertively? We've created a relationship that's dependent on compliance. That's a dependent relationship. That's not a real relationship. That's not an unconditionally loving relationship. That's a relationship that isn't sharing my feelings with you. It's expressing that if you don't do X, Y, and Z, you're a failure. A friend of mine once told me that you know, he realizes as he's moving along that marriage is the process of realizing that your wife is analyzing which man she really wanted to marry, which man is her ideal husband, and you're still standing tall and trusting she loves you. Okay, that's really, trust is a very, very important part of marriage. But communication, at the very essence, is reliant on the breath. And so, what I want to share with you today is, you know, at the heart of every communication, oftentimes we want to communicate, but every single one of us has walls around us. It's not for naught that under the chuppah ceremony amongst the Ashkenazim, the kallah goes around 7 times around the chatan, because there are 7 walls. Every one of us is wearing a bulletproof vest. Sometimes it's thin, sometimes it's really thick, but built on past experiences that we have with others, that we've had before we got married, that we've had with our spouse. We all have all kinds of protective coverings around us. And so when we speak, we're really guarded in what we say. We're afraid sometimes of reactions and disappointments. Sometimes we are so insecure that we have to express ourselves very firmly, because otherwise the other person isn't going to be compliant. We need dominance. Men and women communicate differently. Men communicate essentially to dominate. Women communicate essentially to connect. We have entirely different, men and women were built entirely with entirely different AM and FM, totally different wavelengths of communication. And there's only one thing that really connects us. We're soulmates. At the very core, we understand that our job is to take down those walls, break down the differences, and connect at the core. And when we're connected at the core, when we're one breath, when we understand that we're one soul, when we understand that we really have one common goal to find unity, now we can go back and analyze and see our differences and figure out, well, okay, how do we morph together? I can share with you my feelings, you share with me your feelings. How can we find common ground? But if we're not focused on the breath, if we're talking at each other, then we're each banging each other's coconut together. We're banging each other's heads together. We're cracking each other's walls together, but we're not really communicating. The secret of communication is to find the inner connection, the inner core, the breath that we're really one. And so what we're going to do today, we're going to begin doing today is, and this is an incredible exercise. It sounds crazy. You're going to think that I have maybe gone off the rails a little bit, but that's okay. What we're going to do is, we're going to move our chairs a little bit closer to each other, a little bit at an angle, so we're actually facing each other, a little bit closer. And we're actually going to look in each other's eyes. Aww. And we're actually going to just simply breathe towards each other. So it's just a simple introduction to communication. And this sounds, for guys, this is really hard. This sounds, for guys, really flaky. You know? But if you want to communicate, remember the essence of communication is finding shared breath. We're connected at the core. We're essentially one. So, before we begin to initiate any conversation, I'm going to ask you just to look at each other, and for one brief minute, just hold, inhale, and just breathe towards each other. Good. Great. Okay, that sounds strange, you know? It's a little odd to actually not say any words and just breathe. What is that? My wife told me, actually, when we got married, it was at the end of Sheva Brachos. You can move back a little bit. Don't worry, we'll do it again in a minute. We'll up the game a little bit. You ain't seen none yet. Well, my wife told me after we got married, actually, we were newlyweds, and you know, by the time you finished Sheva Brachos, there was nothing more to talk about, I promise you. There was absolutely nothing to talk about. We were sitting at the dinner table, and you know, everybody's on their best behavior, and we're just looking at each other. My wife actually took a piece of paper. She's a very learned woman, she's an extraordinary person. She took a piece of paper, and she wrote on it the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. I don't know if you know the Mishnah. The Mishnah says, Rav Shimon said, all my days I grew up amongst the wisest of men. Kal Yomai Gadalti Ben HaChachamim. His father was the prince of the Jewish people. V'lo matzasi leguf tov meshika. I never found anything better than silence. She wrote it on a piece of paper, put it on the wall. We just were silent. And you know what? It was infrared, Bluetooth, DSL, didn't have to communicate. It was great. You know, you think, she told me, she said, I was in the car once, her parents, very, very special, my in-laws, my mother-in-law's not living anymore, but she told me that when she was a girl, she was traveling in the car with her parents, and it was quiet. So she was in the back, and she started to try and make conversation, because, you know, it's like uncomfortable, it's like long, you know, it's strange. And her mother kind of didn't pick up the cue. She started talking about the cars, or the highway, or the, I don't know what, something, trying to make some conversation, and it just petered out. And then, you know, she tried again, and it just, like, it went nowhere. So she said, Mommy, it's so quiet. Like, can't we make some conversation? And her mother said to her, Sweetie, what's the problem? Daddy and I are just enjoying each other's company. Wow. My wife shared it with me. Then, you know, we think we have to be doing action, rumbling together, you know, it's okay. We just can connect. This is the source. And then when there is true connection, then the words really, really count. The words are really, really meaningful, because we're soulmates, and we're just affirming our soulmate connection. We trust each other. We are appreciating each other's presence. We're breathing together. We're connected. There's nothing richer, more deeper, and more beautiful than that. And then when words are added to that, they're really meaningful. What I'm going to ask you to do now is, see, when Hashem created Adam, how did he create man? We call it the kiss of life. What does the Torah say? That's right, he blew into his nostrils the breath of life. If you remember, I said something at the weekend retreat, we were opposite the ocean. And I said, you know, there's something extremely relaxing, calming about being next to the ocean. I love it. Actually, there's something that just magnetically attracts me to the ocean. Sometimes, you know, if I'm in Israel, I just at night make my way over in Netanya and just sit near the waves and just listen to the waves. It's beautiful. Florida, just sit at the beach early in the morning and listen and let the waves just... It's something really meaningful. What is that mystical power that the ocean has? Now, someone said, I think it was Dr. Rutenberg, said something very beautiful. He said, well, you know, the ocean connects us to the infinite. You look out at the ocean, you're connecting to something that's much bigger than yourself, and it just gives you a sense of expanse, and it has a power to relax and to be able to lift up and see a bigger picture. It's very beautiful. It's picturesque. But I think there's something deeper. You know, you listen to the waves, and you're listening to your heartbeat. Isn't that what you're hearing the heartbeat of creation? God is investing his breath in this world every moment, just like in the initiation of the creation of man, he blew into his nostrils the breath of life. He created everything with the letter Hey. Hey is just breath. Just breath. That's what it is. He breathes into us the breath of life. And so when we hear the ocean, we're really hearing internally just the very pulse, the very heartbeat of the world on a deep level, the heartbeat within ourselves that connects us to something at the core. So we're always looking for that sound. Reminds me. What are the 5 most important words in a marriage for a man to know?
I'm sorry, I was wrong.
That's right. You're so right. I apologize. Okay, what are the 5 most important sounds for a man to know?
Now.
Let me share it with you guys. Aha. Wow. She. Yeah. Aha. That's all it needs. It's gotta be real. Okay. So let me ask you guys, where do we actually see when you're really connecting and you're connected to the breath, you're connected to the essence, where do we have in our calendar year a power of connection to Hashem? Where do we have a prayer, if you will, that is just audible breath? You know what the word hey, the letter hey, which is breath, you know what it means? Every letter in the Hebrew alphabet means something. The hey actually is really the daled with a yud. Have you ever looked at that? When you look at a hey, it's a daled with a yud. The daled always refers to the material world. This physical world is daled. It's got 4 polarities, north, south, east, west. If you look at the letter daled, what does it mean? A letter daled, do you know what it means? It means dalet, it's a door, it's a doorway to the finite, or it really means dal means poor. This world is poor. You have 100, you want 200. You have 200, you want 400. It's never ending. When you add that yud into the dalet, what do you have? Just a little yud, a tiny little yud in the dalet. It brings it all together. What do you have? Hey, the letter hey. What does the letter hey mean? It's found once in the Torah. Two parashiyos back. We had it in the Torah, the letter hey as a word. Good! Who said that? Woo! Well, Hey lachem zara. Yosef gives seed to the Egyptians after the famine, and he says, "Here, this is for you. Take the seed of life and rebuild." Hey means to give. I'm giving of you, myself to you. That's really what it means. And when you're living in the Dalet, when you're living in the I, in your I dimension, in yourself, it's really very poor. Relationship is very poor until you're able to connect all the dots and build a circle and bring it together and create the Hey, because that's when you're putting the soul into the Dalet, when you have the breath in the relationship, when it's pulsating with real soul connection. That's when we have a relationship. Where do we have in the year where we communicate to God with just breath? Where do we have it? Huh? On? Just during the year. We have it once a year. On? Good. Rosh Hashanah. With the shofar. What's the shofar? The shofar is just, I'm giving you, God, my breath. This is the day of the creation of the world. You blew into man the breath of life. And I'm giving you back my breath. I am rededicating myself to you. And we make it audible through the shofar, which is the ram's horn of Abraham's sacrifice of himself, of his son. That means I'm ready, Hineni, I'm here for you. I give myself back to you. Wouldn't it be beautiful if every communication between us, every communication between husband and wife, preceded with, we need to sit down and talk about thorny issues. So we have a little whistle connection. I connect to you, and you connect to me. Okay, we're really back to the basics. We're back to our Rosh Hashanah. We're pressing the reset button. Back to factory settings. Back to under the chuppah where we were soulmates. Let's just remember that we are communicating thorny subjects. We're getting heated. You're disappointed with me, honey. I know. You want to rake me over the coals. I messed up. Okay. I'm ready to surrender. Before I get into this, can we have just one moment? Can we just whistle? And we just look at each other. One moment where we just sofa together. We're coming back to Rosh Hashanah, coming back to creation, coming back to our essence, reminding ourselves that we may be communicating with words, but we are really essentially soulmates. And we're giving it sound. And it sounds doozy. It sounds crazy. But you know, guys, this really works. If couples have a little catch where they have an understanding that we can always have time out, just a whistle. And we're just reconnecting. Going back to the source. Back to factory settings. And we turn to each other and we just full breath. And then, okay, back to the conversation. I guarantee you the conversation is no longer talking locking horns, a power struggle, fighting for dominance, fighting to be heard. But now we can actually stop and pause and see if we can actually hear and reflect and understand. Can we do this one more time, guys? Would you indulge me with just moving your chairs together? But this time, instead of just breathing to each other, let's try it a little bit more, guys. Let's just actually make the... But, guys, this isn't just for a 5-second... Don't feel like you're a deer in the headlights, trapped, that you've got to do this because we're orchestrating this over here. Do it for real. Do it with your whole breath. In fact, guys and girls, see who can actually breathe the longer one. Okay, that's a good competition. I'm not looking. It's okay. You can just wave. It sounds strange, but I tell you, Rabbi Sai, you are actually realigning back to the basics, sounding the shofar to one another. It's okay, I'm not looking. Okay, guys, why is this so hard? Why is communication so hard? What's the very biggest obstacle that we have? Why is it so hard?
Because I don't watch sports.
We're not on the same page. We're not on the same page. We see things differently. And so we feel that we have to, you know, what's the most common thing, guys, that you hear from your wife? You don't get me! Right? You don't get me. You're not listening. You don't hear me. Right? Well, we're wired differently. It's true. We're wired totally differently. But I want to get you. I'm committed to getting you. You know, I remember telling my wife when she was pounding at me for something, I don't remember what it was. I said to her, listen, when we got married, I was down here. That's where I'm going to get to right now. Do you agree? I'm like kind of over here. I'm moving in the right direction. Okay, diffuse the situation. I'm listening. I want to hear. I'm on the same page as you. We're not going to fight. Because I want to hear what you have to say. When we do the breathing exercise, when we do the breath, we're actually saying to each other, look, there's much more that unites us than that divides us. We are integrally bonded. We are essentially one. We have one breath. It's just that we function entirely differently. Now let me hear what you have to say. Now you can hear what I have to say. I can say over what I'm hearing from you. I can reflect what I'm hearing from you. And you can reflect what you're hearing from me. And we don't have to have resolution, but at least we understand how we operate differently. And that diffuses so much of the tension and moves us forward to being able to find resolution. It's half the journey. But we have to go back. You know, I wasn't going to go here, but actually, this idea of resetting back to factory settings. You know, on the phone, you get this mumble jumble on the screen. So what do? You press it. And you put it back to factory settings, you lose the data, all goes back, but then you realign, everything goes good. This is integral to life, yes?
Can I ask this question?
Sure.
Okay. My question is, which I'm sure a lot of you have as well, how do you get to be on the same page to have your partner understand you on the same page? Like a lot of the times you're in an argument, for example, and you're speaking how you feel about a situation. And a lot of the times your partner may speak back, or he'll just listen and won't give you a response. So there's certain partners that will just sit quiet, and certain partners that will give you a response. So how do you go about that? I mean, how do you go about being on the same page?
So the first thing is, we cannot force anybody else to be on my page. If my objective is that my spouse should be on my page, then we might as well put up our hands right at the beginning. We can't force other people to do anything. We can only create an environment. Nobody changes because they're told to change. That's all we can do. Our job, once we recognize what our job is just to create the environment that's conducive for them to hear us. That's all. Whether they hear or not, that's their choice. I can't wield them and force them, because the more I force them, the more they shut down. And your spouse will shut down in all different ways. Some spouses just freeze. Some spouses engage violently. Some guy, you're not gonna, it's a no-win situation. All we can do is say, listen, are you able, we can empower and we can ask, would you be able to hear me? I just want to share with you my feelings. Would you be open to listening to my feelings? Now, when we give the other person the respect and we create the environment that's conducive to communication, then they're able to realign and they're able to connect their FM to our AM. They're able to hear our language. We speak different languages, but they're able to hear. And then they could say to you, honey, I really hear what you're saying, but if you just lower the tone a little bit, I'd feel a little bit more respected when you talk to me, and I won't feel so demasculated. I'll be able to hear you a little bit better. Can you imagine your honey saying that? No. But he could. It's all about creating the environment. So when I've created the environment, that's all I can do. When I've demonstrated that we're really unified at the core, we're unified at the source, I want to hear what you have to say. I want to hear your breath. We're one. This is not about a power struggle. I've diffused, I've taken out the inherent tension that I need to be heard. I don't need to be heard, but if you hear me, it would be so beautiful. At the very core, all of us desire connection. This is something which is so fascinating. Inherent to the human condition, in every single person, some people may not exhibit any interest in connection. Some people may seem to be almost damaged in their ability to connect. But at the core of every person is a wellspring that desires connection. Every single one of us craves and yearns and deeply desires connection, because our soul, just like we crave to be connected to our soulmate, we have that magnetic desire because our soul is connected to the source of all souls. There are 3 partners in every person. And our soul desires really to connect to its divine source. It's built into who we are. We were taken from the divine and we yearn to connect back to the divine. So built into the subtle mechanism of our being is a desire to connect. We may not know how to connect. There may be a lot of funk and a lot of stuff that interferes with the connection, but there is latent beneath the surface in every person a wellspring that desires to gush forth and connect. It's just there's lots of stones and rubble and accumulated junk on top of that wellspring that doesn't allow it to be released. Some of you guys are smiling. Some of you guys don't believe it. But it's true. Every single man wants to be an incredible husband. A savior, a hero, a knight in shining armor to his wife. And every woman wants to be an incredible wife to her husband. But there's just so much stuff. So when we are able to just go back to factory settings, and we do that little breathing exercise, we're just reminding ourselves that we're really one ring. We really one. We come from one source. Why is it really so difficult to communicate? I'll share with you. I actually have a friend who worked in a big IT company. He was a very important programmer in the company, and he told me that in his group, as a team, they synergized. In his group, there was a couple who were partners together, and they were madly in love with each other. They came into the office every day, you know, like they were just all smiles and bubbly and holding hands, and they were inseparable. And this went on for like 2-3 years. They were so close. And finally, they announced, they're engaged! And everybody was waiting, the whole office was waiting to go to this incredible wedding. And sure enough, a few months later, they had the wedding, and it was like a big celebration, a big party bash, because everybody knew these were like sweethearts. They were like 3 years they were together. And a couple of months after the wedding, they came into the office and they were just, you could see each of them was steaming and the fire was coming out of their nostrils. And about 6 months later, the whole marriage went up in smoke and it was all over. And he couldn't, my friend couldn't understand. I mean, they were so in love with each other. What was it? Why, when they got married, did it all disintegrate? And he realized something very deep, and it's so true. See, when we are each serving each other's needs, but we're not soulmates, we're not yet married, we're not soulmates, under the chuppah, it creates a unity of bond, that it's no longer just casual connection, it's just no longer mutually agreed upon connection. This is like we're now duty bound to one another. There's exclusivity, there's responsibility. We are now unified as one, and only you exist and only I exist. The minute there is that emotional connection, soulmate connection, there's an inherent tension. I need to break free. Don't control me. I feel you're stifling me. You're controlling me. I want to be free. Don't tell me what to do. I feel locked in. And the green grass on the other side of the reservation beckons. We're all sensing a certain sense of... So there's an incredible beauty and depth and richness in that unity. And at the same time, there's a tremendous tension and a desire to break free. It's the same challenge we have with all three dependency dimension relationships. With parents, it could be the most beautiful relationship, or it could be a very tortured relationship because we're so dependent on their affirmation and on their appreciation, on their love. And it could be the same with the spouse, and oftentimes the same with the child, because we need that relationship with our children. So there is, whenever there is a soul connection, whenever there is that deep relationship, that we really depend on the connection to be nurtured, to be unified, to find affirmation to our very identity, automatically there's an inherent tension. So what I'm going to share with you now, guys, we're going to conclude with just a couple more exercises, and then we're going to go one more time back to our breathing exercise, back to the basics, back to blowing the shofar at each other, and then we're on the road to the big shofar of Mashiach. You notice, it's very fascinating actually. On Rosh Hashanah, we blow the shofar. How do we blow the shofar? We have one long tekiah, woo, and then we go, woo, 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 do, 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 and then we blow it again, woo, one long tekiah. On Yom Kippur, at the end of the conclusion, the climax of it all, at the very end of the day, we're all clean as the fresh white driven snow. And we're feeling so exhilarated and so close. How do we blow the shofar? One long tekiah. One long tekiah. Now this is really what the commentaries tell us, what's really going on over here. You see, the shofar is the soul, journey of the soul. I'm giving back my soul to you. I'm connecting to you. See, our soul on Rosh Hashanah, the soul, the reason why we have a broken tekiah in the middle is because in this world we're crying. In this world it's a world of disparate elements. It's a world of letters, of broken, fragmented elements that we're trying to connect. But it's challenging. So our soul came from heaven where it was for eternity. That's the first tekiah. Ooh. And then we have the shvarim. Ooh, 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 ooh. Ah, 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 trying to survive. But we know we're going back there. Journey of life. When we come to the end of Yom Kippur, it's one long contiguous, we're clean, we're free, we're one with Hashem, we're up high, we're living a soul journey, it's beautiful. When we get married, the beginning, we know we're soulmates, but it's a struggle. We gotta work through all the difficulties. But I tell you, as the journey progresses and we're able to understand each other's language, the ideal, the beauty of a real marriage is, we just feel, we breathe, we are synced, we understand each other, we reflect each other, we're unified, and there's nothing purer, more beautiful, and more delightful than one long tekiah which heralds the tekiah gedola of the Messianic era. Guys, I'm going to ask you if you can take out your pads, or I have paper over here, because we're going to do one more little exercise together, and this is going to cement everything that we are talking about, because you see, we will give out some papers, and we have lots of pens, which I can give out. You can take, you can take 2 or 3 papers. 2 papers, and we've got pens over here. Guys, we have pens. There's pens all around. Pens all around. Anybody need a pen? Pen? Pen here? Sure. Thank Anybody need a pen? Thank you. Great. Guys, in every one of us, each and every one of us, we have a devil and a saint. And oftentimes, we got people who pass it around. And oftentimes, you see, when we get into a fight, it brings out the devil inside of us. And what we really want, that's for sure. I hear you. It's true. But we all have it. We don't want to be it, but it just brings out the... And what we really want to bring out is, we all have a saint, an angel inside of us, and we want to bring out our angel self. And we want to live the one tekiah, the one breath, the one unity. But there's just so many walls and so many difficulties. And I'll just share with you a little exercise. See, we always focus on the things that are different, that we feel that our spouse is failing us. We're always thinking, the brain, actually psychologists tell us, the brain is more likely, 6 times more likely to think negative than to think positive. That's the way we're sucked down, right? So we're always thinking why I'm a victim, and why it's not fair, and why my spouse is not giving me what I need. So I'd like you to first write down on that first sheet of paper just 5 of the most redeeming qualities and characteristics of your spouse. 5 of the most redeeming, special qualities of your spouse that remind you why you actually got married. Whoa! Not 1, not 2, 5 of the most incredible qualities of your spouse. Be careful what you write, guys, because you're going to be giving it to your spouse. And I got any paper? And she's going to be reminding you. Some guys are thinking long and hard over here. I see them scratching. I smell the rubber burning.
5 qualities of what is married, or 5 qualities?
5 qualities now. That's actually why you got married.
You know, Rabbi, it's easy when you just get married to write these qualities, but when you
5, spiritual. The hey, give them to your wife. Give her a high five. Give your spouse 5 qualities, special qualities that define their angel, that define their saint, that define their goodness. Some guys need a lot of time because they're writing and writing. Okay. Okay, so I think we got the 5. We got the 5 guys. Some people wanted to write a lot more. But we have to stop somewhere. So we choose 5. Now, I'm going to ask you to write on your next sheet of paper 5 things about you that irk your spouse and that she would or he would really like you to change. 5 things. Oh! Reich, what are you doing to us? 5 things on that paper, the next paper, that really bother your spouse about you. You're dying to write the 5 things that you can't stand about them. But right? 5 things. The 5 things that your spouse is bothered about by you. It's always macaroni and cheese for supper. You leave your socks and your dirty laundry on the floor. 5 things. 5 things, nobody's looking. No one's looking over anyone's shoulder. Just write down 5 things that your spouse would like you to change, would be a little bit better. You know it irks them, it bothers them. It doesn't have to be a major gripe. But you know if you could up your game in that area, it would make them a whole lot better and it would improve the relationship a lot better. It's okay, no one's looking. It's okay, you could write intimate details. You could write the thing that bothered them or that they would want from you the most.
Come again?
5 things that your spouse would really like you to change for the better.
5 things. It's such a difficult task.
Okay, we got lots of paper. What we think the spouse doesn't like about us, what we think really bothers us. We're always nagging, we're on their case.
The newlyweds inside.
5 things that you think your spouse would like you to do that would make them happy. So you would write the 5 things that your wife wants from you and she's not happy about you. 5 things that your spouse is not excited about you when she listens. You would be a better listener, you wouldn't get angry, you would communicate differently, you would be more loving, more caring, more present. Put your stupid phone down when you came in the house. Shut that dratted phone. It doesn't matter. 5 things, write it down on the paper. 5 serious gripes, or not so serious gripes, that you know your spouse, if you could just do these 5 things, it would make your spouse so much happier. After all, you love them, you see all their qualities. 5 things, limited to 5. 5 things that your spouse is talking about you that they wish. Your spouse wishes that you would do different. 5 things that your spouse wishes that you would do a little different. If only you would do this different, it would be so much better. Now some of you maybe have a great relationship and it's only minor stuff, minor irritations. I won't give you examples. But everybody has stuff in the relationship. So let's get down those 5. Very hard to think because this is an exercise in self-indictment. Okay, but it doesn't matter. This is good. We are whole. We want to up the relationship. See, we are going into the internal core of the relationship, the soulmate connection. We understand that we are destined, we're one, we're really one, we're on the same wavelength, we're just wired differently externally, so we're going into the core, and we're dealing with it constructively. Okay, looks like we've done that assignment, so we have 5 qualities of our spouse. We're really inspired and desirous of celebrating the relationship. We appreciate the spouse. We would like to make it real. We understand that we breathe together, we're one. And we understand there are things about us that bother our spouse. And we want to benevolently rise. We want to be attuned, attentive, connected to their needs. And so now, as a final stroke, a gesture of our angel side, you're going to write down on the paper, the next paper, if you have it at the bottom of the sheet. If you need more paper, we've got more paper. But write down one thing, just one thing that we're going to go out tonight. Of those 5 things, one of those 5 things in which and how you are going to endeavor, try to address. So, one thing that your spouse doesn't like about you, that gripes about you, that wishes that you would be different, and you're going to write on the sheet one thing that you are going to try, and you're going to demonstrate what you're going to do. So again, let's say it would be the phone that they're complaining about. When you come in the house, that phone is going to be switched off, and it will only be switched on with their permission. Right. You don't mean that.
No, seriously, you don't mean that.
I'm going to ask you to write down one thing that you can up the game and address your wife or your husband's gripes. Just one thing, and how you're going to do it. I told you guys this is going to be Yom Kippur. We're going to have long sofa at the end. You can't do tshuva on everything, but we can do on one thing. Okay, guys. Put up your hands, anybody who still needs time. Has everybody got that one thing?
Yeah.
Anybody who can't write one thing on that paper is going to stay behind with me. Till we get it right. Okay, hold the paper carefully. And I'm going to ask everybody to put the chairs again at a little degree in an angle. You're going to present it to your spouse. And as you present and switch papers with your spouse, sharing with them the 5 things with which, the 5 things with which you appreciate especially about them. The 5 things that you know you could do better. And the one thing you're going to do better, give it to them with a blast of your sofa, with your breath. Just one long breath. Give it to them with your breath. I am not looking. Guys, I thought I was going to hear so much crashing of the waves. It's too quiet. Quiet is good. Exchange papers, all your papers, qualities, things that you need to do right. Your spouse is going to remind you of those 5 things, but that's okay, it's an honest relationship. Okay guys, I'm going to conclude with one little thought. Just one thought, guys. I want you to know, when the Jewish people encamped in the wilderness, they had a special, miraculous Iron Dome protection system called the Anani HaKavod, the clouds of glory. Guys, one more thought. There was a great saintly Hasidic Rebbe, the Rizhiner, and he said something very beautiful. How did those clouds of glory come into existence? In whose merit were those clouds, beautiful clouds, an umbrella that unified the entire Jewish nation? Aaron. Aaron, the lover of every Jew, the one who saw the good in everybody. He said, do you know how those clouds were formulated? You go out sometimes on a cold day and you're breathing, and the vapor comes and you can see it. He said those clouds of glory were created from the combined unified breath of the entire Jewish people because they were breathing as one, and therefore they formed an umbrella on top. And a Jewish home has a special anan kashur al ha'ohel, like it was on Sarah's tent. There was a cloud of glory on top. And that cloud is created by you, spouses, breathing together, breathing in unison. Yes, we have differences. Yes, we have challenges. Yes, we see things differently. But we're always affirming to each other that we are soulmates, that we breathe together, that we are determined to be able to find unity in diversity and be one. And so that together, as we blow the shofar to each other, we will be able to merit to hear the great shofar of Hashem connecting to us with that shofar of Mashiach that we talk about, that we blow at the end of Yom Kippur. May it come speedily in our days. Amen. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rabbi. Just a quick moment of your time. I hope everybody enjoyed this workshop. You know, every once in a while I send out text messages. I know some people are tired of them. Don't give up on me just yet. We hope to continue having these workshops. The next one is going to be on February 28th. Mark your calendars. I will send out more information. We don't have the title just yet, but we do know who's speaking. It's going to be Rabbi Rudenberg, and it's going to be in this room, Bezrat Hashem, February 28th. We do have a few other programs. We're also working on a couples Malav and Malka. It's also going to be in this room. It's a beautiful event that we have. Look out for emails on that as well. We hope to see you guys at future events. We're going to daven Arabit right now over here. So if all the men can just come forward, those of you who want to pray Arabit.